Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner. Guess who's with me today? It's Rob Williams. It's Laurence Campbell. How are you both?
Yep. I'm good, thank you.
You'd
All good,
almost
Andrew,
think
yeah.
you'd just answered this same question 30 seconds ago, which you have, because I didn't press the record button, so sorry about that. We are now recording. And you're both here to talk about your new Dark Horse book, which I can't wait to see, being a big Hellboy fan, which is Hellboy, the Sword of Hyperborea. So what can you tell me about it, gents?
Well, first off, it's a Hellboy world, Hellboy universe book. I mean, it's not a Hellboy book per se, although if you've read Hellboy over the years as we have and B.P.R.D, you will recognize this is very much part of the legend. And you know, in B.P.R.D, we saw there was a character called Howards who had this, he turned into a kind of Conan kind of figure, and he had this mythical sword which were, you know, imbued with some kind of dubious, strange powers. Our series really partly follows Howard's and his history and the history of the barbarian character from the post-Hyperborean age called Gall Dennar. So you go back right through thousands of years of time, and then what we're going to see is how the sword got to Howard's. So the different sort of individuals who have held the sword and, you know, been over the years and kind of passed it on. So it's weaving in between existing sort of Hellboy and B.P.R.D history and mythology, and you'll see some things and some characters that, you know, you recognize very well, and you'll meet a bunch of brand new ones as well. So it's creatively, it's very exciting for us.
Brilliant. And of course, Laurence, you go way back with this whole universe now, right?
Yeah. I've been working in this world for, oh my God, a scary number of years now. Probably, I think it's around 8 years, 9 years, something like that kind of thing. So yeah, so kind of B.P.R.D came to its natural end, and kind of while it was coming towards the end of that, I just had a few kind of really vague ideas, like more visual ideas, as it were, and I kind of sent these to Dark Horse, and Mike saw them, and kind of things developed from there, really. And then kind of Rob came on board as a writer, and everything just fell into place at that point, really. And the characters were created. As I say, the nice thing is that it touches on characters that I've drawn in B.P.R.D, and some characters that are in the Hellboy world that I've not actually drawn before. And also we've got these new characters as well. So that's good fun. And the other part for me that is a real attraction is I get to draw over kind of a real kind of vast landscape of different kind of, without going into, I can't go into it too much, but kind of really different type of characters, as it were, over really kind of different kind of generations. And that's really exciting for an artist to do.
Yeah, I hear you on that. How were you both? How did you both originally discover the Hellboy universe? 'Cause it's been around for a long time now, and you know, if you're big time comics fans like yourselves, you know, comics professionals, big time fan like myself, you know, it's been with us for quite a while. But how did you first encounter it? Can you remember?
No, actually, it's weird. I mean, no.
You was a big B.P.R.D fan, wasn't you? Before, yeah, much more than me, as it were.
I mean, so I was sort of, yeah, but I mean, I can't. It's an interesting question. It's one of those things where just like over the years, you know, just the respect that there was for the books and for Hellboy. So I started picking up the trade paperbacks. I can't remember sort of, you know, how, you know, that first experience of it, but I mean, but I did start buying B.P.R.D right at the start, and you know, when it was kind of like, I think the first B.P.R.D miniseries was written by Jeff Johns, if I remember right, and I think maybe Scott Collins drew it. So and I think I've still got those issues here. And then I got, you know, I just loved both of them running side by side, and to me it was absolutely fascinating, where you had, obviously Mike was doing Hellboy and the main core Hellboy story, but you had B.P.R.D was this different characters. Hellboy was in it briefly, and then Hellboy left, and you had John Arcudi and people like Guy Davis, you know, who just created this, you know, expanded the world out with different characters, and they're tonally they're very, very different books. If you read Mike's stuff, it's pure, you know, feels like Mike and no one else kind of has that kind of tone in their comics, both aesthetically and narratively. What you know, Mike and John Arcudi were doing and Guy Davis were doing separately was like a very different type of book, and it just totally worked. So I was a huge fan, and then I remember, you know, saying to Laurence, "Oh, you got to read this. This is great. This book. I mean, it's." And then Laurence ends up drawing it for 5 years, which is such a weird. You can't. You couldn't have predicted that. I mean, I think we were saying the other day, we went to a Birmingham comic convention and Mike Mignola was there. And Laurence went up to talk. They said, "I'm going to go." I remember this really well. Laurence going, "I'm going to go up and say hello." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he went. I mean, he came back and he went, "Yeah." He said he wants to work with me. And I was like, "What?" And it was like, you know, when you're just starting out and you couldn't. I said, "Really?" It's like, yeah. I think he gave you his card, didn't he?
He did give me a card. I mean, that was a bit surreal, to be honest.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It was at a Birmingham. I was at a Birmingham con, and I just signed a 5-year contract with like Marvel, so I was going to be working with them for the next 5 years. And I was at that point, I was the Punisher artist, and I've always been kind of a Mike Mignola fan and also a Hellboy fan, like huge fan. And Mike must have just sat down after lunch. He doesn't remember any of this. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. And there was no queue. And I looked around and there was no queue. And I just thought, look, I'm just going to take advantage of this. I'm just going to go up. So I just went up there really. And I kind of raved about how much I loved his work. And then I had some of the Punisher pages I was drawing at the time. And I said, "Oh, can I show you some of my work?" So I showed him that. And then he was going, yeah, there's some nice stuff here and whatever else. And he gave me his card. And he said, "Oh, there's possibility of a book I could think about you on, things like this." And he gave me his card. And then I thought, I'm only going to meet him once. I only ever kind of like, this is like just a one-off opportunity. So I said, "Could I have a sketch of Hellboy, please?" And he said, "Yeah, okay then." And the only paper I had on me was my Punisher script. So I've got a sketch of Hellboy on the back of my Punisher script from years ago. I've still got it, kind of thing. But that whole experience was quite surreal. I didn't kind of, because I was working at Marvel at that point, I didn't work on that. I kind of, what must have been what, the 4 or 5 years passed on. And then I got an email, I got a message via Facebook from John Arcudi asking to work together, kind of thing. And that's how I ended up working on B.P.R.D, but via private message on Facebook.
That is a brilliant story. What I love about it is the self-effacing way in which you tell it. It's like, you know, isn't it funny that these people just reached out and, you know, for some reason they wanted to work with me? Because you're a brilliant artist, that's why. You know what I mean? And like, you know, I somehow feel if I went up to Mike Mignola and had a chat with him, he wouldn't be on the phone going, "Hey man, I'd really like to work with you." You know, so I think that's such a brilliant story. That's amazing. Yeah,
I've not really told many people that.
I think it's great. I think it's really good.
No, I think it just sort of shows as well the fact. Bottom line is, I mean, you get old and jaded with this stuff, but you know, we're still fans at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like it kind of blows your mind when you get a chance to work with people like Mike. It's it's a real treat.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's like with anything, right? That is the business that you work in, as we all do in different ways, or it's the stuff you do on a day-to-day basis. It's very easy to get sucked into the drudgery of it all and become cynical about the fact that it's your life, and you know that like everybody has good days and bad days, and you meet people who are not pleasant to deal with, and you meet people who are pleasant to deal with, right? And we all have those experiences. And so what can turn what looks like a dream job from the outside to loads of people into just the miserable drudgery of existence? And we you know that waking up with that existential dread which you have, whether no matter what you do, you know what I mean? Even you're going to spend a day creating comics. But I think the thing is, the great thing about both of you guys is I can see that, you know, your love of the medium, it's right there and it's bubbling under. And I'll give you an example is, off camera before we started, we were just talking about what Laurence has been working on recently, and the analogy he created for the space that he was in immediately referenced that classic sequence in Fantastic Four, in an early Fantastic Four, where the Human Torch burns off Namor's beard, you know, 6 or 7 issues in, right? And I thought and we all got really excited talking about that. And I thought, that's it. That's the thing. You know, that's when you can tell that people have, you know, when you just haven't lost your love for it. And that's very obvious with both of you guys.
Well, also, and Laurence, does have small wings on his ankles. That too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, very useful, very useful. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's the character. If he ever makes it into an MCU movie, I really like to see how you can adapt Namor into a physical medium with a person and make him look in any way credible with the ankle wings is a question mark.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you either embrace that fully or they try and hide behind it, but it'd be fun if they did embrace it.
Yeah. Also, I'd really like him to have the triangular Bill Everett head as well. That would be
totally.
Triangular head and the ankle wings. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yes.
Back to Hellboy. I had a funny intro to the Hellboy universe because for many years it was one of those great series that I knew was great. And then I kind of thought, I'm going to get around and read this all in one go at some point. So for years and years, everybody I knew it intimately, knew it really well, but I hadn't actually read it. And so the first thing related to Hellboy I ever saw was the movie. And the interesting thing about that was it gave me the same journey with a comic book movie that a regular non-comic book fan must happen with any comic book movie, right? So basically... Being, having read comics all my life, I go into any comic book movie knowing a lot about the source material, right? But I didn't on Hellboy. I'd never read it, and as a result of that, I came out of and despite being highly film literate, I came out at the end not really understanding what had actually happened at the end of the film, and I was like, oh man, this is what it must be like when people without any Marvel comics knowledge walk into these labyrinthine and Marvel movies, because you take it for granted how much you actually know from the comics page, so everything makes sense to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
It's so, and I hadn't really considered it, but I had to go back, and then that's what spurred me to read Hellboy. And then I realised, okay, that film was entertaining and it's a great director, but this comic is a work of genius. It's a very different thing tonally.
Yeah.
So getting to play around in that universe must be a real treat, actually.
Well, for me, what's nice about it is that it's quite a small universe. There's kind of the creators that have worked on it. There's quite a small amount of creators who have worked on it. So you don't get much contradiction. And then Mike and Katie, the editor, kind of thing, they keep an overall eye on it, as it were. So you get very little contradiction. And there's a kind of, certainly on B.P.R.D, there was 2 years. I was asked to kind of draw the final run on it, and I was told the ending 2 years before it actually happened. And it had been pre-planned even before then, kind of thing. There was like certain steps that were going to happen, and I quite like that. I like the idea that it isn't seen that it's going to go on forever, kind of thing. And you've got these monumental moments, as it were. And it's kind of like if a city gets destroyed in the next issue, it isn't just suddenly rebuilt. There's consequences, as it were, kind of thing. And I like that in the writing in B.P.R.D as well. So characters like personalities, some of them they grew, as it were, and others didn't like other people in the team, and like events would change that and things like that. So it was really nicely done on kind of personality skills, as it were, which, if I'm honest, I think Rob is kind of good at, kind of outside B.P.R.D in comics that he's done. He's really good at that personality and character development.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird coming into it. All roads go through Mike, right? I mean, I think that's the bottom line. It's his world and his so we've had a few Zoom conversations, and everything has to be run past him from a writer's point of view. I mean, I'm a long-term fan of this stuff, and I know it fairly well. I don't know it anywhere near as much as sort of people like Mike. It's kind of it's an interesting, because you don't want to do that Mike pacing and because that's Mike's aesthetic, like his tone, so you want to bring a bit of yourself to it, but you actually want to be within the confines of make it feel like a B.P.R.D book or a Hellboy book as well. So it's kind of just trying to find your wriggle room within there, but I mean, one of the nice things about it is just like it's just been really collegial and friendly, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like Mike's been very open with us, and occasionally on the Zooms he's told Laurence and I oh yeah, well, I was thinking maybe, I have these vague ideas for this, and then he just tells us stuff, and we kind of go, oh, okay, right. And it feels like we're being told little stories within the Hellboy universe that no one else has heard before. So that's kind of like a real treat. I mean, one of the other nice things about this book is, like, Laurence and I have worked together a bunch of times, and we're good friends, and it's just been so collaborative. You know what I mean? It's just we talk a lot of it back and forth. There's ideas in there. I mean, issue 3 is a character. I had something completely different. Laurence went, I always had this idea for this character, and I went, oh, that's better than what I had. And so it's just, and then Mike sort of throws ideas in as well, so it's kind of like a real kind of melting pot. It's not as clearly defined as a lot of books are. I've written this, now you go off and draw it. It feels like is like a mini little weird little writer's room, effectively, and it's it's been great. It's just like, and because of the concept of the book, we've got a different character in each issue, and effectively, you get an origin story for each of these characters in each issue, and we're creating brand new worlds and stories within this as well, while also making it within the greater kind of like Hellboy tapestry, if you will. It's just creatively, it's just been a really, really fun book, And
I remember one of the Zoom calls where we were kind of like putting together the ideas were bolting together, and then Mike suggested that I can remember 2 scenes, and I was like, really, you're willing to go there in this book, because it were kind of thing, and I think me and Rob afterwards were like, blimey, he's let us kind of, and we're just both surprised. There's 2 areas that I didn't think that we would go anywhere near, and Mike's let us kind of go there, kind of thing. So yeah, that's quite exciting.
Yeah, we can't give away too much, but there is something in this book which is huge in a way for what we've seen before with Hellboy and B.P.R.D. and the overall story, and what Hellboy had a story. He had a start, middle, and an end, and it was planned out. And in fact, like, I reread not so long ago, like The Island and a Hellboy miniseries, which kind of actually tells the ending of a Hellboy story about halfway through the overall timeline. Like, Mike knew, and effectively went, this is how it's going to end. Just when you read The Island, if you go back and read it again, you didn't realize at the time, but you were actually being told how this story was going to end. Which is kind of like, so much of it is sort of characters have dreams and sort of, they show you, so it's very dreamlike, and you get visions of the future. Well, there's something in the Sword of Hyperborea which is actually beyond what we've already seen, which is kind of crazy.
Oh man, that is a teaser and a half, mate. That's the money shot. That's the money comment. Brilliant. I can't wait to read it. How many issues is it, guys?
It's 4 issues.
It's 4 issues, and then there'll be a collected edition after that.
Yeah.
That issue number 1, which we're talking about now, can be ordered from the links attached to this conversation right now. And gents, before we go, what else are you guys? Have you got anything you're working on that you can talk about? I know, Rob, you've got your current AWA book coming out at the moment.
Yeah, I think issue 2 was out last week, if I remember right, and it's called Out, and it's by AWA Studios. It's myself and Will Conrad, and it's basically it's a World War II horror book, and it's the great escape. But what if there was a vampire in the camp with them? So these prisoners of war, they already had to try and escape, and they're being eaten one by one. So it's very much, John Carpenter's The Thing, and Alien, and films like that are touchstones for it. So that's really enjoying that, and there's going to be a collected edition of that April next year.
Brilliant.
And then I think this week on Wednesday, myself and Chris Weston have a new Judge Dredd story called Judge Dredd the Musical, running in 2000 AD, and that's the return of Sensitive Clegg, who's kind of been a popular character the last few years. So yeah, that's great as well. I'm getting to work with a lot of fantastic artists, which I'm very lucky to do. Yeah,
I mean, Weston's like Laurence, they're the men, you know what I mean? So anything. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, no, it's a treat to work with Laurence, a treat to work with Chris. It's, I just give me good artists and I'm a happy boy.
Right on, well said.
So, I've just finished Sword of Hyperborea. I've got a little bit of a break, and then I can't really. It's that thing of like I'm starting a new project kind of thing, which I'm really excited about, but it's really early doors yet on that one.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with you, mate. Well, Laurence, whatever that new project is, I'm looking forward to talking to you about it when you can
absolutely.
talk about
Yep.
it.
I'll be
Yeah.
well up for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for that, gents. Again, Hellboy, Sword of Hyperborea, available from the links attached to this conversation. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you both soon.
Brilliant.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot,
Good to see
Andrew.
you. Cheers.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.